Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 22 of Smokin' Weed and Talkin' MMA. I am here with my co-host, Paul.
What's up?
And he has just fired up a joint of some Tropicana cookies. Along with that, today, our weed of the week is some Sequoia Strawberry. Both a couple of nice hybrid sativas. How's that taste, Paul?
It's good.
Dude, this is one of my favorite strains. Tropicana Cookies is a really orange heavy strain. It's got a lot of
it's got a lot of orange hairs on it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of terpenes in it too to give it a nice fruity flavor. And it's got usually purple leaves too. So if you look at the bud itself, it's pretty cool because it's like purple, orange, and green.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very good. I believe Tropicana Cookies, I could be wrong on this one, but it should be across the Girl Scout Cookies and Tangy.
Yeah.
Which are just a couple of killer strains. I mean, Girl Scout Cookies has just become like the backbone of so many different good strains out here in Vegas and California and everywhere else. But it's dominating a lot of the dispensaries out here in Vegas right now with all this offshoot. Speaking of which, we have the shatter you got today is some Girl Scout Cookies as well. And then Sequoia Strawberry, this is an interesting hybrid. This is it's a cross of White Strawberry and White Nightmare, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's got a kind of a heavy fruity flavor, but a completely different one than this Tropicana Cookies does. All the benefits of living in Las Vegas, where all this wonderful cannabis is legal.
Ooh.
I hope wherever you all are listening to this right now that you have some fine cannabis in front of you as well. What'd you think of that? That's pretty tasty, huh? So rocking a couple nice sativas for the show. And man, what'd you think of this weekend, Paul? We're coming off the first UFC card on ESPN, and I guess it's technically called UFC on ESPN +1, which sounds really weird to me, and it sounds like you're making a reservation somewhere. But they're also calling it UFC Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Either way, first event on the streaming service. They did the prelims on regular ESPN. So we went early prelims on ESPN Plus, and then the prelims over on regular ESPN, and then back to ESPN Plus for the main card, which I thought was a little awkward, but whatever. What'd you think?
I thought it was a good event overall. I mean,
before we get to the fights, how was your streaming experience on the new service?
mine was pretty good. I mean, it bowed out a couple times early, but it was never was a situation where it like actually interrupted like any big moments of any fights.
Yeah, mine froze like twice. And then it seemed to lag behind because you called me in the championship fight, and I was like a full minute behind you.
Yeah,
and since
like,
it was a 30-second fight,
I called you. You're like, no, stop. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was a little awkward. But overall, I think it was better than our last new streaming service experience, which was DAZN or DAZN, whatever you want to call it, which I really didn't like that one. It was their first go with that Bellator card.
Yeah.
Whatever. They've probably improved. I'll be honest. I canceled it.
They did better with I watched the Canelo fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, overall, though, it's pretty cool. It was really weird seeing people, ESPN personalities.
Stephen A. Smith was
Stephen A. Smith, yeah. Like
he was actually talking pretty educatedly. Like, he wasn't natural, like a normal, like, ESPN, like, interview for, MMA guys. He's actually speaking from a somewhat educated point of view.
It wasn't bad. He had done a little bit of homework, I could tell. And
he had everybody's records, who their last two fights were. He did his homework. He did his journalism homework for once.
I got to give him credit. I read some people talking shit online, but that's what the internet is for these days.
Everybody is talking shit about everything throughout this whole week, whether it was the new belt, the whole ESPN experience, like everything. Everyone was kind of talking shit all week. Right.
I don't know. I thought it was cool seeing the UFC pumped by these major sports personalities that everybody knows. Like,
we all got to finally deal with the first ESPN delay as well. With that fucking Virginia Duke game going longer than it was supposed to, because it almost went to OT. Then the card actually got delayed probably about 10 or 15 minutes. But everybody get used to that, because we're on the worldwide leader of sports now. We're not turning any fucking games off early to get to other events. So you're going to have sometimes where first fights of cards are going to be sometimes missed because what matters is what is on the TV schedule rather than, you know what I'm saying?
That's a new thing for us UFC and MMA fans in general.
Mm-hmm.
We're not used to that. It caught me off guard last night.
Yeah.
My friend out in Colorado called me too. He's like, "What happened to the fights? Are you watching the fights?" Because it happened at the same time, the switch over from ESPN Plus to regular ESPN.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, where'd everything go?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we all got to see a good end of the basketball game. But yeah, that's the reality of being on real ESPN. Real ESPN is big time, dude. It's big time.
Well, I enjoyed it. I think it was a good card overall.
Yeah, it was really
good. It was headlined, of course, by the champion.
I really liked the undercard
fight. The undercard was solid. The co-main was a bit of a oddball from start to finish, but we'll get to that fight. It
was an oddball, but I think it was still a good performance on Cejudo's part.
I thought the headliner on the prelims was
good
great.
Fight.
I mean, Donald Cerrone,
fight of the night,
versus Alex Hernandez in that, and his return to lightweight, which we'll get to that fight as well. That was great.
Yeah. There's one. I mean, we're not really going to go over the whole undercard, but if there's one person I'd like to bring up, is Menefield.
Yeah,
he's got a future, man. I mean, everyone was talking about could he stop the takedown, and that was going to be a big thing for him. The guy was talking about even before the fight, they did a little because it was cool. They did a lot of production, even with the undercard guys. Like they did the pre-fight interviews with both of them. He goes, "I know I'm going to finish this fight by submission."
Yeah.
Says that, and then he ends up getting KO'd, but it was real good because he was put in a lot of those submission situations, and he fought out, stood tall, fucking got up, and ended up finishing him.
Another football player turned
MMA
fighter.
He played 4 years in the CFL, they said.
I think that's a big benefit. I mean, it doesn't necessarily give you fighting skills, but it gives them that
I think the leverage,
movement, and understanding where to move their feet to keep themselves on balance. I mean, that's such a major part of fighting. I mean, you could see that even in the Greg Hardy fight, which we'll discuss later. But you could see his
even you got to think like someone like Greg Hardy probably has an even better sense of that leverage playing D end. Playing against the lineman, which is straight leverage. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know what Menefield. They didn't. I think he played linebacker or something. But even then, linebacker, you're going out there hitting mofos. So you got to have some sense of takedowns. He's been doing
since a little kid, more than likely.
Yeah,
most of them
definitely.
do. So it's a good solid background. So that was good. I was impressed with him as well. Out of all the undercard fights, I thought that was good.
I'm always happy with anything at light heavyweight right now. Anybody picking up steam because. It's a wasteland at this point. It's John Jones and everybody else. I know we got Luke Rockhold coming into the mix now.
Luke Rockhold
and a couple
moving
other
up to
people,
205 is good. Yeah,
we need some other stars for sure, or at
nice
least some
Romero
guys coming
join.
up. I don't see that happening.
He
said there's no way. Yeah. He said he walks around at 204. So I don't see somebody who walks. I don't know if I believe
Does he
that.
just walk around at like 1% body fat?
He probably does,
just
dude.
Fuck it.
He's been training at an elite level since he was 10 years old, dude. Like so, you got to think he probably never carries very much body fat on his body in the first place.
No, he's not the type to balloon up. No.
Yeah. He probably is constantly training, no matter what.
He probably is.
Yeah. So I mean, just moving on up that card.
Yeah,
it was good.
That was good.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, before we get to the big fight on the prelims, I really liked the Joanne Calderwood versus how do you say her name? Is it Lipinski?
I don't know, Lipsky, whatever.
Lipsky, something like that. No disrespect to her, it was her first time in the UFC, and
JoJo's
one of my favorite fighters. Like
I think Calderwood just showed her veteran mentality there,
and her ground game is like she's come out here to Vegas. She moved out here. She started training down at Syndicate.
Yep.
Big John Wood over there.
Training with Roxanne Modafferi, who has great jiu-jitsu game, and I'm guessing she's probably rolling with her on the regular.
It would appear so because she's she has that Muay Thai background, so she's got good stand up.
Yeah.
And now she's taking people down. She's submitting them. She's She had a lot of armbar attempts in that fight. Like, I was really impressed.
And she almost kind of stayed away from her bread and butter and won this in a different way. She wasn't, although she did use the clinch in like great moments later in the rounds, but to start the fight, she didn't do as much clinching. She did a lot more grappling, which they were talking about. Lipsky was coming into this training with a lot of jiu-jitsu black belts, and they were saying that was stupid of her. But obviously, as we saw, she wasn't doing enough, you know.
Right. We've seen both the resurgence with her and with Modafari since coming out here to Vegas and going over to Syndicate MMA. And that team's really, really showing some improvement on a couple of veterans, you know. And I like that a lot.
Well, you got to look at Calderwood too. Now she's in an open division at this point. There's really at 25, her and Jessica I are really the only two that are making any noise.
Absolutely. And she doesn't. It was a really tough cut for her to get down to 115 before. It's just another benefit of that women's 125 division.
I might be wrong, but I could have swore Dana said that he's going to do Jessica I versus Valentina next. I could be wrong.
I'm not mad at that.
But still,
I would like I versus Calderwood too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what she so sweetly called out.
Okay, but do you think? Do you think that? You think that if I gets the title shot, that Calderwood needs to win another fight, or do you think she waits out the winner of that fight?
I mean, I think in that division she could wait out the winner of that fight. I don't know if she would, nor do I know if that's the best thing to do. I'm not certain, but I wouldn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Especially if they book it fairly soon. I mean, I don't know how often she wants to fight, but I mean, she seems like the type that wants to get out there.
She didn't take very much damage in her last fight either.
Sad thing is, or not sad, but I mean, I love JoJo just as a fan, but I don't see her beating Shevchenko any more than I see Jessica I beating Shevchenko. I think she's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to think about how we've been singing the praises of Amanda Nunes, rightfully so lately, and look how close they fought.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that sit here and argue that Shevchenko beat her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, those are a couple of really elite fighters there.
Yeah. Well, and it was always, I think it's always going to be the size difference with those two.
Yeah.
Whereas Valentina can go out there and use her size and to her advantage, and she's a little bit faster than Nunes. Nunes was still doing a lot more damage. That's always been their problem. You know what I'm saying? She's got the volume. And she's always going to have the volume because she can move better than Nunes, and she's faster. Mm-hmm. But Nunes is always going to have the power over her, and that's, you know what I'm saying? That's always going to be that.
Definitely got that power.
And it's always going to come down to the judging and how can you always, you know, how can you always put your trust in their hands? You know what I'm saying?
Right. It'd be interesting if Nunes does. I mean, she was saying on Instagram she's going to go to, or Twitter, she's going to go to 125 next. She's like, I'm done with 45. I'm going to 25.
Bullshit.
I don't
she
believe
hates
it,
cutting weight. That's what Din Thomas said.
That would be pretty awesome, though.
Din Thomas said she hates cutting weight, though. How the fuck is she going to go to fucking 25?
She's... Well, anyways, I'd like to see JoJo get that title shot, or Jessica I, either way.
Is Nina 115? Right?
She's 115.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine if she was a triple champ. That'd be nuts.
That'd be nuts. If she could do it, too, if she could get that weight off. Well, I would think. I don't know. It depends. You might see a situation where it was just she's a little too depleted.
Yeah, I think Valentina would beat her at 25.
Because that's a good weight for her.
Yeah, because Valentina looks straight.
Murderous.
Optimal fucking, you know.
Remember her first fight at 25
crazy, though,
against
well, yeah,
Priscilla,
that was awful.
Oh, God, it was such a beatdown. Oh, my God.
It was like 116 freaking significant strikes to like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, it was murderous victory.
Yeah. Remember who was the ref? He hasn't like reffed a big fight since. It was
yeah, he took a little heat for that, which
was it Mazzagatti or was it
I don't think it was, or we'd have heard a lot more about it.
No, I think it was what's his name? The one who puts up the heart.
Oh yes, it was
him.
Yeah, Mario Yamasaki. One of them. Yeah,
that was him. He fucking I mean, to his defense, there, she was still trying to fight back. I think you got to put that more in the corner.
The corner should have stepped in too. I don't know how you'd let a just
beatdown of epic
murderous beatdown.
But here's the thing too: is Valentina is good everywhere though, because she moved up to 35 and beat Holly Holm. She beat a lot of serious contenders. Who was it? She was supposed to fight for the belt, and then Valentina beat her. She's Invicta champ now. She was on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's not coming to me right now.
Jessica Pena, something like that.
Jessica Pena took a. Last time I remember her was getting a pretty bad beatdown from Young Jacek.
No, that's a different person. I don't know. Whatever.
Anyways, Valentina Laterno?
No.
She's over in Bellator now.
Yeah, I know she is, but no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, anyways, let's circle back around to that was my favorite fight before the main event of the prelims, so to speak. That Donald Cerrone versus Alex Hernandez at 155. Cerrone's return after 3 years. I didn't realize it's been 3 years he spent at welterweight. Really? Yeah, 3 years, man. Where'd that time go? For real. Seems like he was still just moving up. Yeah. But, you know, he moves back down.
He did fight, what, 6 times at welterweight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He comes back down, and Hernandez was talking all kinds of shit. Very disrespectful young man.
And rightfully so, though. He's got a future in this division. I think it was just too much too soon.
He just didn't realize the Cowboy's not done yet. That's all. He thought he was getting a gatekeeper that was past his prime, and what he's running into is a Cowboy that seems to have his head on straight.
And to be honest, though,
2 fights in a row.
To be honest, I kind of felt the same way going into this, because we look at the last. He was. We got to
look at our official fight picks on Instagram.
He's
I believe you picked Hernandez, right?
Yeah. Because Donald's 500 in his last 6.
I think he's 4-2. But he could be 3-3. I could be wrong.
My point is, though, he was looking pretty. Like he lost to Till, Edwards, and then he beat Medeiros. He lost to Robbie Lawler before that, also. Mm-hmm. So I think he lost 3 straight and then won 3 straight. Something like that.
He had some success at welterweight. He went up and he beat Cote. He beats
no, don't get me wrong. He had some solid fights, but he also had some ones like that Till fight where you're like, ooh, how much longer can he fight at welterweight if he's gonna fight guys like this? And then obviously they just kept giving him young and up and coming guys like Leon Edwards.
Because he fights anybody, he doesn't give a shit.
That's true.
He took on some murderous
100%.
fucking people. I think he said that in his post-fight comments last night. He said, "Yeah, I should pay more attention and be a little more selective because I'll fight anybody." And then they just gave me some
not anymore. He said he's not doing it
youngsters
anymore.
Who kicked his ass.
For real,
yeah,
it's true though.
Oh,
he should have never took that Darren Till fight.
That was a terrible.
Never.
He didn't even know who Darren Till was.
He found out real quick.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was a beatdown. But are you a believer yet in what I will now refer to as the post-Danger Cowboy? Danger being the name of his son, who he once again credits with his renewed focus.
I don't know yet.
Cowboy's usually a slow starter. He came out of the gun last night and was not a slow starter.
I don't know though. Alex Hernandez was getting his most
in the first few seconds.
Yeah, his most successful part of the fight was probably the first minute and a half. If you really look at that fight, Alex Hernandez started hot, and then Cowboys started getting in a groove, and he started landing all his shots and those combinations, and then busted both his eyes. Yeah,
man, he had his cuts under both eyes.
Yep,
it was a mess. Beat some respect into the youngster.
The problem was is Cowboy hurt him, and Alex almost hurt him, but he was like how Cowboy was early. He was like only able to hit. He'd hit him with like once or twice, and he never could put that third one to really rock him. You know what I'm saying? He'd hit him with some good hits, but he could never break his focus throughout the whole fight.
Well, we're gonna have to shift off a little bit because we know Cowboy was victorious, obviously.
Yeah.
Right, and it was a TKO. Was it second round or first?
I think the second.
I think it was second.
It was like 2 minutes into the second.
And
that kick.
It was very, very, very dominant. I mean, he weathered some damage early.
Yeah.
Came out into good. And then he did the same thing.
He rocked him with that kick, though, dude. Did you see that? That fucking... He had that cut in his face, and he kicked him and blew his shit up. I was like, oh,
Hernandez he took a hard blow with that one. Absolutely.
That shit was rough.
So Cowboy delivers on the ESPN stage.
Yep.
I mean, the guy holds the records for most wins. I think it's most finishes, most bonuses. I mean, he's breaking all of these UFC records
40
now.
Zuffa fights.
40 fights under the Zuffa brand since Zuffa bought the WEC, where he came from originally.
Yep.
Looking to have 50, and once again says he wants to fight Conor McGregor, this is where we're going to have to veer off for just a minute, because now instead of just talking, Conor actually replies almost instantly on Instagram. Says, good work, Cowboy. When he said, I think he said, with a fight like that, you deserve to, I'll fight you, Cowboy. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Which Conor usually doesn't throw out fight acceptances just for talking shit.
Yeah.
And that could be a thing.
That could be
I don't think it was a
thing.
The last fight when Cowboy called him out. I was like, yeah, good luck with that. But now...
Yeah.
Especially since this just happened on ESPN, it happened to be on regular ESPN.
I think that was very strategic by the UFC also, because they were going to get one of two things out of this. They were going to get a rising star in Alex Hernandez, or they were going to get the return of the Cowboy.
Yeah, and judging by Hernandez's comments pre-fight, if he would have won, he would have had some interesting things to say post-fight. So they're kind of guaranteed some traction either way, but instead they got Cowboy looking like proper. I mean, looking like he is top 3 in the world.
Well, you know what I think it is their original plans were to do the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor fight. And I just think that's a fight that Conor won, and he's like, I just don't see any traction behind that to where we're going to do any great numbers.
The Cowboy's extremely popular.
Yeah, Cowboy's popular.
The build-up here.
I just wonder how Cowboy's going to handle how much shit Conor talks.
Well, I was thinking that too, and in they brought that up in the post-fight comments last night, because Cowboy admitted to getting riled by Hernandez, not during the fight, and not the night of, but at the cutting weight at the press conference. But he said it was because it was disrespectful, and then he immediately said Conor's shit-talking is funny and witty.
No, not always. Not last time.
Well, I think last time's an aberration. Which I don't even want to get into last time.
Well, here's the thing, though.
What's he going to say about Cowboy? You hang out with terrorists? He doesn't.
No, yeah, he doesn't. But yeah, I get that. But my thing is, you get Cowboy flustered, and then when Conor gets anybody flustered,
you might be able to get him flustered.
He jumps all over them with the shit talk. Like in a press conference, if Cowboy in any situation is like, just shut the fuck up, you know what I mean? And Conor's just gonna jump all over him because he's gonna see him. Like, just peek a little bit of that actual hurt underneath.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
I want to see it.
You know what I'm saying, though?
I'm so behind this fight.
If Conor's able just to get under his skin just enough to where it shows a little bit in Cowboy's demeanor, Conor will jump all over him in the shit talk. And I'm curious to see how Cowboy will react to that because of that Nate Diaz fight where he was very much winning that fight. And then Nate Diaz started talking shit and fucking riling him up, and he started losing it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is where you would find out if this older, mature Cowboy is really older, more mature Cowboy.
100%.
It would be all in how he deals with Conor McGregor, because he is a veteran and he's a father now, and it's just something. I mean, I'm a father too. There is something that changes that you can't explain to people until they have a kid. They're like, oh yeah, like you do change. And it could be, he could be an older, more mature Cowboy who's going to make that legit title run.
I think this is the perfect fight for Conor to come back to.
Oh, me too.
For him to put on a performance.
Because right now, when Cowboy's got this big bump right here, fuck yes.
And here's the thing, is Cowboy's wrestling is good. His ground game is good, but his wrestling isn't good. Cowboy's good at, he's good at, like, knocking you down and then taking advantage of you on the ground or like something like that. He's not somebody to go out there and take shots. And he's not going to go out there and double leg Conor. Like even if he did, I honestly think Conor's takedown defense. People, I know what you're saying. Like his grappling is awful. Yeah, don't get me wrong. His grappling's awful. But his takedown defense up against people who are not high-level wrestlers has been great over his career.
It's underrated. His grappling and his takedown defense is underrated.
Well, here's the thing. This is very much going to be a standing fight, and I would very much like to see where Cowboy's striking leads up to Conor's. Now, this does beg the question of where is Cowboy going to be mentally? Because we saw this in a very similar situation when he fought Rafael dos Anjos, and he was not able to take the shots that Rafael dos Anjos was giving him and was put out early. if he goes into a Conor McGregor fight the way he did into that Rafael Dos Anjos fight, which was the last major lightweight fight we've seen him in, the same result will happen.
It could very well.
You know what I'm saying? This is really gonna come down to where's Cowboy's head at and what is his game plan going in.
And on the other side of that coin, it also comes down to where the fuck Conor McGregor's head is at.
Did you see Cowboy last night said he would do it in Ireland?
Yes, and I think he's serious.
That'd be so gangster.
Please, MMA gods,
That'd be so
give us
gangster.
Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone in Croke Park.
That'd be so
in Ireland as a pay-per-view.
That would sell out.
I'll pay whatever you want. People listening, who would not pay for that fight?
Nobody.
We'd love to hear it in the comments if you would not pay for that fight and why. Who on earth? I think that could actually beat
that
Khabib
could be their mega card. That could be their next
Conor.
mega card. They could stack that.
That's a bigger payday than Diaz 3.
They could stack that thing because then what they could also do is they could put Khabib and Tony on that card as well.
Oh my god!
And then they could
sick.
they could stack the shit.
Dude, don't you
out.
think that's a bigger fight than Conor Diaz 3 right now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Diaz has no momentum. I love the guy, but he has nothing going for him.
I think you still. I think Dustin Poirier Diaz is still the fight to make.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight.
I still think that's the fight to make at this point.
It'd be a whole different story if that fight had gone through and Nate had won, hypothetically. There'd be a whole different story.
If Nate would have won, he would have all the traction right now, and everyone would be barking for that Conor McGregor Nate Diaz fight.
I get why he doesn't fight, but I wish he would play the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, see, Donald
it seemed like Nick was until a couple weeks ago.
Donald Cerrone, well, he's not playing the game. He just likes to fight, but he's in the right spot at the right time right now, and he got the champ. Trademarked champ. You notice he's putting that TM in that tweet last night?
Yeah,
he really did that shit, too.
I know.
That's fucking hilarious. If you don't know what we're talking about, folks, he trademarked the term champ.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yes, it is. The OG champ. Did you see old Ali chiming in on the Twitter like an ass bag? He said something. It was Conor had tweeted.
He said, "Good job, Henry and shit."
Yeah, good job. Even though you didn't get the fastest KO, and then Ali just chimes in. He's like, "Shut the fuck up, Conor. You'll never have those belts." I fucking can't stand that dude.
Oh god.
All those fighters love him. He's Cejudo's manager too.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of Cejudo, why don't we jump right up the card a little bit, or do you want to discuss Greg Hardy and some of these other fights, or do you want to jump from Cowboy to Cejudo?
We'll talk Cejudo and then we'll talk about Hardy.
All right, because I don't think Hardy should get prominence before that fight. I mean, you and I have a slightly different opinion about the outcome, but there's no agreement that disagreement that Henry Cejudo went out last night against TJ Dillashaw, which was not a champion. It was a champion versus champion fight, but it was only for Cejudo's belts. TJ had come down. TJ is not Cejudo won, but he is not a double champ. He's not a champ. Or some writer, somebody referred to him as the unofficial champ. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're only the champ at that weight.
Hey, no, he's the unofficial.
Connor's a champ because he won at 45 and then at 55. You don't win a fight at 125 and then win another fight at 125 and be like, no, I'm the 35 champ too. No, you're not. Just like Khabib isn't the new featherweight champ. Because by that logic, Khabib is your current lineal featherweight champion.
Not necessarily. He didn't fight fucking Max. They didn't have.
No, but Conor McGregor was the lineal featherweight champion.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, fuck that shit.
Well, see, then you agree with me. So moving forward, he's not the champ unofficially. Dude. He is the winner of the TJ Dillashaw versus
Here's the thing, though.
Henry Cejudo fight for
the
flyweight belt.
Get out of here with the lineal titles.
Lineals are legit, son.
They're gay. All
Trust me, folks. They're legit
as fuck. They're stupid as fuck. Here's the thing. He is the unofficial champion because they're both active.
Dude, that fight was stopped too soon. 32 seconds in. And it's not Cejudo's fault. Henry Cejudo went out and did exactly what he's supposed to do, and he won that fight, and he TKO'd TJ Dillashaw.
There we go. I think he TKO'd him. I don't know if he knocked him out.
Well, he is a technical knockout.
Yeah.
It wasn't a KO. I mean, there is some controversy. I don't think it's a robbery.
Yeah,
I'm not saying TJ should have won. It's no robbery. What I'm saying. But I think that there's definitely controversy in that.
The whole thing that TJ's coming out with Cejudo didn't win, like that's fucking retarded. Ridiculous.
That's
like,
stupid.
Dude, he fucking won the fight.
Yes, you can't take that away. He went out and did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Exactly.
I think the failure came on the part of the referee.
Of the referee, yes.
I mean,
I just don't like the people that are writing the narrative out there of discrediting Henry Cejudo because they are definitely doing that with the talk that's out there of going, that's a terrible stoppage, that's this, that's that. No matter what the stoppage was, Henry Cejudo still put on a hell of a performance inside those 32 seconds.
You can't take that. You can't
take that away from him.
The person I'm faulting here is the referee.
And based on what was happening in the fight, that was an end of the fight sequence.
I think that the referee is at fault because he did a disservice to both fighters, because we can sit here and go back and forth because ultimately it's just a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, it should have been stopped. In mine, it was simply stopped too soon. In your argument is basically he took like 16 unanswered blows. And my argument is basically he was literally spinning around to grab a leg for a takedown when the fight was waved off, which you could certainly say is a form of intelligent defense. Which I think ultimately simply illustrates the point that the referee made a disservice here. I don't think it's a robbery. I don't think TJ won. I think Cejudo won. That's that. But I think there's an argument to be made that it was stopped too soon.
Well, yeah, definitely.
And that's unfortunate because it gives TJ a point to run around and cry and make these exaggerated claims that it was stolen.
This is what I dislike about TJ Dillashaw. We've always said this. There's just something I don't like about how TJ Dillashaw handles himself.
Well, he's douchey. He's like that cocky, douchey dude in high school.
Well, here's the thing.
All grown up.
That grin he had on his face walking into the octagon, like...
Yeah.
That was... I don't know if that was necessarily the weight cut. I think a lot of that had to do with his own ego going into the fight. He came into this smiling at him and shit, and like fucking. I just felt like he was a little full of himself and went out there and didn't respect any of Cejudo's power whatsoever, and Cejudo just blitzed him, and that's honestly what happened. Whether you think it's a short stoppage or not, Cejudo went out there and blitzed him, and TJ Dillashaw was not ready for it.
No, he was not ready for it at all.
Plain and simple.
I'm not in disagreement with that.
He can say whatever he wants to of that he didn't lose. Last time I checked, dog, you got both your eyes are busted, your nose is busted. He only hit you, 10, 12 times?
No, he lost the fight.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think the best argument he could make is that it was stopped too soon.
And here's the thing, too.
But
if he wants to bitch and shit, run it back in 3 weeks like you guys were supposed to anyways.
I think ultimately...
He's talking about he wants to come back down to 25 and do that. I think that a lot of that had to do with being at 25. He looked like a fucking skeleton this weekend.
He looked like a wee little boy. I mean, he's always small. He looked so little.
You hear what Cejudo did? He did it very scientifically. He said he came into the octagon at around 143.
Yeah, he was probably bigger than...
He probably came in heavier than TJ Dillashaw.
Because TJ came into fight week only like 7 pounds over, if I understand correctly, which means he likely didn't rehydrate much because he didn't wind up cutting much actual water weight.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have any left at that weight either. He looked like a fucking stick figure.
He looked terrible.
And yeah, I would, and this isn't an excuse, and this is taking nothing away from
and I'm gonna be honest,
Cejudo, but I was watching
Cejudo too. I thought Cejudo looked really nervous. He looked.
I don't know. I didn't notice that.
He looked really nervous. He kept doing this weird thing where he opened his mouth and shit. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" And then he just came out and just fucking blitzed his ass. You know what he did? What was smart though? That little push thing that he did when TJ came to open up with that head, that signature head kick that TJ does, where he kind of leans into it, and he was just like, "Nah, bitch, that's not happening." If you watch. I was telling you to watch the ESPN Plus I'm Destined thing. He was actually training that to do that, like to push him down when he does that kick. His coach they were running down the film. He was like he keeps leaning when he does that head kick. I think we could really do something that will just mess him up mentally there. And then
that worked quite well, and he implemented it right away.
Exactly. And I think that goes back to him having a great team behind him. No one really talks about this, but these two are go through very similar training regimens. They both are doing it very scientifically when it comes to the weight cut and their performance cuts. You know what I'm saying? They both get multiple, different doctors checking them out on the daily and weekly basis to where they're not training when their body's depleted, and they're testing their urine and everything to make sure they're getting all the right vitamins, doing all the right even Cejudo was talking about, like, some days he'll do, like, he'll have a sparring day, and his doctor will come in and do all his measurements and everything around his body, and if he's not on 100%, he won't train at all. He'll fucking take a rest day.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, it's more about building your long-term endurance than, worrying about, I need to get this many days of training in before the fight.
Sure.
I need to do this much wrestling, this much striking, this much strength training. Same thing that TJ's doing with Sam Calvita, where they broke down the weight cut to a science and how he got down there. The problem is, how did your body react? I understand what TJ was doing and how he got down there, and he did it in a healthy way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that his body is going to fight at the same optimal performance that it was going to fight at 135.
Yeah, he's a guy that always looks shredded at 35.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why a lot of us were wondering, like, how is he possibly going to lose another 10 pounds?
And he looked fucking shredded. He looked like a fucking skeleton, dog.
Yeah, I find that a little disturbing. Not as bad as some cases I've seen before, but you could tell he was wow, okay,
dude.
You
could see his total, like, every bone and muscle in his torso, dude. It was rough.
Fucking TJ Dillashaw.
Like, in that open workout, dude, did you watch his workout then, dude? He was, like,
he was crazy looking.
Dude.
Dude, it's so crazy. And he, the build up to this fight, we saw Cejudo, sees on the snake persona. We've seen TJ just openly embrace it. And it's so funny, the effects of Conor McGregor. We're sitting here talking about champs. We're watching TJ Dillashaw attempt to become a champ. Why? Because of Conor McGregor. We're watching. But who started it? Why is there an area? Conor was the only one they've ever let do it, and then it spawned all this.
Yeah.
Just like TJ's whole persona with the whole snake thing, the whole lead up that Cejudo had wearing the snakeskin jacket and throwing it down at the weigh-ins, all inspired by Conor McGregor. And then Donald Cerrone, in the biggest moment of his life, who does he call out? Conor McGregor. Like, that's so trippy to me to think about that. Very gentlemanly. It wasn't like an asshole. It wasn't like Nate Diaz style.
Stole my whole life, motherfucker.
But, like, here's a man who not only has fought once in MMA since 2016, but he got his ass kicked handily in his last fight, and yet his ripple effect and dominance of the sport is being felt in this first ESPN event, and he's not even there. Yeah. I thought that was very interesting, just as a side aspect of seeing what's going on. You know what I mean?
It speaks to his name, dude.
Yeah. I mean, he sends out, like...
He's notorious.
Like, that shit was all over the internet the second he responded to Cowboy. 100%. Before the event was even over, there was articles on MMA fighting. Yeah. It's crazy. He really is. Like, it says that I was looking at his Instagram because he just hit 30 million followers. And it just says the face of the fight game. And it's actually not even bullshit. This guy's managed to lose his last 2 fights. Hasn't won in 2 years. And it lost, like, none of his fucking shine. Yeah. He's still dominating the fucking event. He's in the minds, or not the, if not the minds, in the actions of the main events across the night. It was crazy. It's a trip.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. What a fucking trip. What a fucking guy. What a time to watch MMA.
Honestly, going back to the main event, I think that people really need to stop writing the narrative that it was such a short stoppage. I think no matter the stoppage or not, Cejudo went out there and won that fight last night in comparison to what TJ Dillashaw did. And that's what's going to be written in the books forever. He could, like, people were talking about, are you going to put that up for fucking to the commission?
Oh, please. No.
Okay. It's never going to get reversed, because whether you think it should have been stopped or not, there was never a time where TJ Dillashaw was winning that fight. So.
Kat Zingano's still in an eye patch, and she can't get that reversed on a freak accident. There's no way that TJ getting... I mean, he was getting his ass kicked. That's not getting reversed. And I think with that, we can sum up that fight. I think you're right. I agree totally. And now let's briefly talk about what was surprisingly the co-main event on the first ESPN card, which was Greg Hardy.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. Greg Hardy's really fucking good, though.
See, I thought the opposite.
The first round, he looked fucking good.
I thought he looked terrible. I thought he looked like a guy that didn't know how to strike. I thought that the way he looked good was in his movement. I thought some of his punch slipping, especially when he was leaning way back, was on point.
How much time he's had him down there.
Okay, I guess if you look at him as a fighter who's had 3 fights, okay, yeah, he looked good. If you look at him as a guy who's co-maining the first ESPN card, he looked like a fucking rookie out there.
Here's the thing, though. You can't blame him. Here's the thing. This whole situation with him across... Yes, you blame him as a personal person, like hit for what he did, but now with the platform he's on, you got to start blaming the UFC and taking away of being biased towards him and just thinking of the UFC is fucking up by putting him in that situation. Because
yeah, he should have been on the early prelims on Fight Pass.
Viewing it. I don't care. I think he personally is a piece of shit, but looking at what he did yesterday, like, he's just taking advantage of what is being given to him. He is literally just, like, the UFC's choosing to put him there. I mean, whether you agree he should deserve to get the shot or not, he's just doing what he can with what he's getting.
I agree. It is the UFC's fault. I don't begrudge Greg Hardy the attempt at MMA. It's a free country.
Yeah.
Just like... And I openly admit, like, I'm not a fan, and so anything he does, I'm going to look at bias just because I don't like him. And so, like he was trying to apologize for his illegal knee. Like, if folks listen, if you don't know what happened, Greg Hardy had some domestic violence issues in the past, kicked out of the NFL, and then now he's in the UFC after he's 3-0 as a professional.
Yeah.
And he gets this co-main event spot, and he threw an illegal knee in the second round and got disqualified.
It was pretty much due to very much to just inexperience.
You can chalk it up. Yes, it was inexperience on some point, but and also it's like he was also told not to do that right before the fight. I mean, and those are like some of the main rules. Like there's certain things you can't do, like no grabbing the fence. They're gonna like the ref goes over it.
Here's the
just like they go for boxers.
If you watch the replay, the dude is on one foot and one knee.
I've seen it. And there's freeze frames of it. Yeah,
driving forward, pushing forward. So that other knee can come up at any point. That's just him not timing things and being inexperienced. Is literally what it chalks up to.
Right. Well, it also chalks up to if he looked and saw the knee down and threw it anyways, hoping that it was going to come up by the time his knee hit there, which is you can say it's rookie.
It's just inexperience at that point.
And I guess. If you're arguing from the fact, like, did he do it maliciously? Like, I know this is illegal and I'm going to do it anyways. Fuck this guy. No, I don't think he did that. Do I think he threw the knee purposefully? Yes.
Well, yeah, he threw the knee purposely.
I think he got mad.
I just think that he thought that was what he was going to transition to at the time with the guy pushing forward and taking the shot. Naturally, if you're not an experienced guy, you're going to go to what things that you think are going to do the most damage.
Do you think he should have been disqualified?
100%.
Yeah, me too. And that's the ultimate thing.
That's the same thing. But do you think John Jones should have been disqualified when he 12-6 fucking Matt Hamill? Obviously. If you do an illegal move, whether it was meant to happen or not, you just get disqualified. Right. It doesn't matter what people think. It was not malicious is the thing. It was not something that was premeditated or something that was done out of anger.
Now, let me finish up my point. I do think it was premeditated in the sense that he looked at the situation as like, I'm going to throw a knee here. Do I think he decided before the fight that I'm going to cheat at my first opportunity? Of course not. No, that's silly.
But people are making the idea.
But we're not people. I know people are making it sound like people want to jump on the Greg Hardy train, but here's my problem with it. I think he was rightfully disqualified. I think he did some stupid shit, but it's the UFC's fault for putting a rookie-ass fighter who should have never got the push anyways into the big show. And then where I have a problem, and this comes into my bias, which I'm openly biased against Greg Hardy, and I don't care. Like, I don't begrudge him his opportunity, but that doesn't mean I have to be a fucking fan.
No, I understand.
Like... And he's out there and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I would never cheat. I'm so sorry. And he's like apologizing to Crowder. And I can't help but sit here and in my head go, dude, you never once said you were sorry for beating on that woman. You never even admitted that you did it. You still say you didn't despite your fucking conviction. Yeah. Just because the conviction got turned over because you paid somebody doesn't erase the fact you got convicted in the first hand. Yeah. And so I can't help it. Like, for me as a fan, I can't go... You asshole. You're apologizing more for a fucking knee than you were for beating the shit out of some woman. What the fuck?
I see what you're saying. And
so that's just my bias. So I'm not trying to say like he can't fight, but I can't take your apology seriously. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if he's sincerely apologizing or not, because I can't get over that bias.
Okay, but my point is,
and that's because the UFC shouldn't have put him there to begin with.
The narrative that's being written out there, though, is that he was beginning to lose the fight and was looking for a way out.
Oh, I don't think you can say that with any seriousness other than just you're really hating on the guy.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like that narrative that's being put out there, because you can hate him for what he's done in the past. But
you got to admit it, like I just did.
No, yeah, exactly. You got to admit it. You can't just look at him and everything he's doing and going, well, he's never going to be successful in my eyes because of what he's done. Like,
it's cage fighting. If you can't make a comeback there, what can you do? But
up to what happened there, it was a good performance by him, though. There was a lot of pluses in the development game.
I thought he showed some good balance, slipping punches.
Yeah.
But I think he was about to get his ass kicked. That dude was unloading on him.
Though, because then
he was taunting him, having his way with him.
He was having his way with him, but then going into that shot, he hit him with 2 big punches, and he was wobbling and then took that shot. So who knows? That was a very back and forth fight, because the other dude was trying to act like he wasn't gassed too, but they both were fucking gassed. Both those motherfuckers were like very, very... they just weren't conditioned for a 15-round fight, you know?
How much you want to bet that he is not in the co-main event spot on his next fight? I think they drop him way down to the prelims.
I don't think so. I think if he ends up on another card, I think he ends up as the main event on the prelims, because that name still is going to sell, dude. Because now that you are on ESPN, you know, you've got the leader in sports. People are looking for names they've seen before, and you look, no matter if it's because of one thing or another, they're going to look at a guy like Greg Hardy, and they're going to go, hey, we're going to be on the prelims on big ESPN. Why don't we throw Greg in the main event of those prelims?
God, you know, you're probably right, because the UFC goes for ratings now. Yeah, and this is where the UFC, I think they've realized this, is that they have fans by the balls. Because, like, take me, I don't like Greg Hardy. But does that mean that I'm not, if they throw him in the main event, what am I going to do? Turn off the TV?
Yeah, no.
Of course not. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to fucking watch it. And that's what I mean. And the UFC's starting to realize that. They're like, yeah, fuck it.
Now they do.
They know.
Now they do, just like the NFL does, just like the NBA does.
Because they're right. I can hate on it all I want. I'm not going to turn it off.
Exactly. Because now it's not about the product as a whole. It's about making stars out of the few.
That's the WME attitude, that endeavor.
You know what I mean, though? It really is. It's about making stars at this point. Let's put it this way. How many basketball games do you think are played a day? Probably like around 10 or 12, you know, throughout around the league. But how many are on TV? 4, 6 at the most. So we're looking at the 5 biggest stars, the 4 to 6 biggest stars that are playing during that day are the ones that are on TV. But you still have, you know, 8 to 10 teams playing every day. You know, it's not about, now it's not going to be about as much as about, oh, the UFC's got a lot of guys who are putting in a lot of work behind the scenes that deserve a shot. It's going to be about who's making the most noise right now, and they're going to be on the biggest cards. They're going to be on the main events. They're going to be on the prelim main events. They're going to be on ESPN Plus. Those are going to be the guys that are going to run the show in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Certainly seems that way
throughout this promotion.
Yeah.
And I think last night was a big fucking, you know, a big fucking.
It's a big success for the.
Because look at it this way.
Yeah.
Now we have a guy at 125 that was possibly going to be dissolved, and now we're talking about maybe that's not even going to happen, because now they're talking about the TJ and fucking Henry might not even fight again next.
Well, I think that's just Dana White, typical bluster. What I find confusing in the matter is Henry Cejudo's attitude, and I think his duality on what he's been saying shows us what's going on behind the scenes. Personally, I think 125 is done, and I think Henry shows us that, because on one hand he plays the white knight and says, I'm here to save the division. That was his whole thing. And then he makes the pleas afterward, but then he's also saying before the fight And then immediately after the fight, my next fight will be at 135, by the way, against TJ Dillashaw. Yeah. So, wait a minute.
But then, also, you got a guy who is on the main card, Joseph Benavidez, who wins his fight, and he has a claim to that belt as well, considering he beat Henry after he went through that slump and lost to DJ.
See, I agree with that as a fan.
Benavidez as well. So if you're going to hold on to this division at all, you don't make that Henry and TJ rematch next. You do Joseph Benavidez versus Henry. You get another defense under Henry's belt, build up that division some more, see what the ratings are like. Keep it in kind of a trial basis where you're not holding on to a 50-man roster of flyweights. You're holding on to 20 to 15 of them that are the 20 to 15 best flyweights in the world, and you just work those guys. And if you kind of rework the division that way, you see what I'm saying? Where you're getting the most exciting fights and the best product out of that division, and you're not getting anything else out of it. Because you do have a lot of fluff through other weight classes that people are going to see. And so if you have a division like flyweight where you're tired of seeing the fluff and no one wants to watch that anymore, why don't you only hold on to the studs? You rebuild the weight class, then you can add some fluff on once the division has been built up to a higher level.
I agree with that from a sporting standpoint 100%, and as a fan, that's what I would like to see. However, based on the conversation we just had about Greg Hardy and the way the UFC is approaching things right now, I think that for them, the money is now going to be on the Cejudo-Dillashaw rematch at 135, and they have already shown their hand in getting rid of the division. I don't think that as a corporation, as a business, they really decided they were going to put it in the hands of Henry Cejudo and Joey Benavidez, who, while I agree from a sporting standpoint, Benavidez had a great fight. From a casual fan standpoint, not the greatest.
I see. But then again, here's where ESPN shoots itself in the foot. ESPN posts everyone's content, and where you're running into MMA media is a different game. You know
Absolutely,
it's a much different thing than the NBA or anything, because those are all scheduled things. You have a schedule who you're gonna play. You have a schedule who you're gonna play in the NFL, who you're gonna call out. ESPN went on last night and decided to post on their Twitter Joseph Benavidez calling Henry out and stating, I was the last one to beat him anyways, so, calling him out. Now you're posting that out to everybody, and maybe those casual fans who didn't know before that Henry lost to him watched that fight last night and they go, what the fuck, dude?
Right.
He fucking went out there and dusted TJ. Why do I want to watch that next? Although there was an early stoppage, it was dominant in the 30 seconds that it lasted.
Absolutely.
So why would I care to watch that again, similar to when Amanda Nunes Cyborg, where everyone said, why do I care to watch that, even though two women went down there and just threw hands? Very similar situation. So now we move on to a guy who's already beat the champion, and you go to a division that's crying for help. Why not put the two best guys in the division that you want to see if it has any traction? Mm-hmm. Put the two best guys you have in that division, put them on an ESPN card, see what the numbers do, and you'll see where your fanship's at,
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the UFC and ESPN decide to play this, because I personally would like to see it the way you just described it.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens here in the next few months. They can't keep ignoring and booting this flyweight problem they've created down the road forever. So we're going to get some resolution to that. So let's move on now out of this UFC event and it's something that we got coming up. We touched on Conor earlier. We touched on Conor versus Cowboy, but the truth is that fight can't happen. Nothing on that can move forward until January 29th, which is when we have the next NSAC hearing.
The stars align on January 29th.
Which right now, for the Nevada State Athletic Commission hearing, we've supposedly got Khabib Nurmagomedov coming in, or at least his case being discussed, Conor's case being discussed, from the same event, and John Jones and his case being discussed as well.
As well as Zubaria and fucking Dylan Dennis.
And Dylan Dennis and Zubaria, the other players in the Conor McGregor camp versus Nurmagomedov camp fiasco. Mm-hmm. So my questions are, A, do you think that anybody's going to boot it down to the next meeting like they keep doing, or do you think we're going to get some resolution here? And B, what is that resolution going to be?
We know we're going to get resolution with Jones because you can't boot it any farther.
No, Jones wants that over and done with. They're not going to ask for because the reason it gets booted is because the camp asked for a continuance. It's when both times that Conor's camp said they wanted to reschedule, so they're like, okay, and then Nurmagomedov's camp was like, yeah, we're going to do the same thing.
They did it again.
Right, and it's on them. It's not Nevada doing it. And Jones has no reason to.
Yeah, my point is Jones has an event coming up, so
he wants to get cleared right away.
And he most likely is going to, based off of his last test after fighting clear. Nevada said they wouldn't license him until they received a clear test. They get the clear test.
Seems pretty clear that's the way it's going to go.
Like it's going to get. He's going to get licensed in Nevada, and there's not going to be a problem. So that kind of gets away from the drama with him. Like that's most likely going to be shored up pretty easily. Now we move on to Khabib and Conor. I think what they've done is kind of smart. They've let time roll by. They've let people want them more, and they've kind of let the whole idea of what happened die down in the public eye.
Yeah, it's cooled down.
So I think that the commission's going to be a little more lenient in both their cases, and I think they're probably going to get around maybe, 4 to 6 months.
I hope it's 6 months based on when the fight was, which would be, it's already been 3, hasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
So there would be another 3 months.
It's going to probably be around like a $500,000 fine for Khabib and probably like a $20,000 to $50,000 fine for Conor. Although I know people are not going to like that, but I think Conor was more provoked by the other guys jumping in the cage and attacking him than it was Khabib jumping over the cage and attacking him.
People want to point at the punch that Conor threw, but they want to ignore the fact that Conor, even standing on the fence like he was, was still where he was supposed to be, where he was contractually signed on the dotted line to be, whereas the dude that was climbing the cage was not. Was not. And people that can't admit that simple fact just hate Conor.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, too, is maybe Khabib gets like $250,000, but I just think it's going to be a cash grab for Nevada to be like, you know what?
I hope that's all it is.
Shit again.
I hope for some minor shit at this point. I don't want to see if they do something stupid like an 18-month suspension for Khabib. That's just going to be a shitstorm, man.
Division up and possibly cause a retirement of a fighter who doesn't need to retire yet.
Yeah, because he'll get stripped or an interim at the very least, and then he's going to blame the UFC because that's who he seems to blame anyways.
He won't fucking. He won't know how to deal with it. He'll think that the fucking UFC's were fucking suspending him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's going to be like, oh my god.
And well, here's the deal too: is I just don't want to see the division get held up for that long. I'd rather see Tony Ferguson Khabib on fucking March 5th.
I don't want a Conor Khabib rematch. We've discussed that ad nauseum.
Well, here's the
thing: Tony's the fight to make. Let's do it. Let's fucking give him 6 months. Fucking fine him, whatever, and let's move on, people.
Come on.
Yeah, 6 months retroactive to win the fight, the last day, and then so it's like 3 months from now we can have a big fight. Let's get it done before fucking Ramadan, which sorry, I don't know when that is. Let me sound like an asshole, but I know that Khabib takes it off, so they got to schedule fights around it. So we should get this done before then. Yeah, I just know it's later. It's like later in the summer, I believe. No offense to anybody listening. I'm just not a very religious person. So. Yeah, let's get it done. That's my only point. Let's fucking please, no craziness from Nevada. Let's hope we get resolution.
Conor would probably fight Cowboy and probably around International Fight Week.
I hope they do it here. Here or Ireland, nowhere else, please.
I'm thinking around International Fight Week because that gives So it's January to July. That's 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Gives it a nice fat build up.
Yep.
Conor can be out hustling now. Whiskey.
I would like him to fight soon, but it's like whiskey versus beer.
This is one of the.
Gonna be drinking during the camp.
I've been of the opinion that Conor's not going to fight again unless it's a big fight. I think this fight properly done could break the record. Who
comes out as his head coach in this fight?
Owen Roddy.
Think so?
Yes, I do. I think I think there's more
Roddy
to
or his wrestling coach. What's his name?
Sergey
Volkowski or whatever.
Yeah.
He's been training a lot with him too.
Conor seems to be at Roddy's SBG gym.
Yeah.
Because if folks who don't follow the camp might be unaware, it seems there's definitely SBG has opened another gym in Dublin.
Yeah, well,
but
now
it's a different one, and
too.
Owen
they're moving the main one.
Yeah, Owen left the main camp and appears to be running
Charleston,
this gym, the Charleston SBG Charleston gym, where Peter Quincy.
Yeah, Peter Quill.
Peter Quill. Why did I say Quincy? I don't know. Fucking high. Peter Quill's been training, and it seems that Conor is there training with him.
Every single piece of his training camp, he's posting every single day.
And then we've got John Kavanaugh on the other hand saying he hasn't spoken with him and he hasn't been at the gym. So how does this? It would seem to me he hasn't been at Kavanaugh's gym, and they haven't spoken.
Yeah.
Which could mean that something's more behind the scenes that we don't know about, because they're both pretty professional and friends, and I don't think they talk shit any more than they have.
You know what? I don't know what's that guy who does Chael's podcast with him sometimes.
I don't know.
Whatever, but he brought up a good point. Maybe it's because of how Kavanaugh went on JRE and pretty much explained that they just weren't ready for Khabib. I don't think Conor really wanted that out there.
That could be.
Conor's got the kind of ego where if he with a performance like that, he'd rather just go back into his camp, dive his head down into whatever he's got to do to beat him, and just train it, and then come out and tell people how he did something right, not how he did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think there's something to be said of that, because he just completely avoided everything that Kavanaugh was saying during the fight as well. You know what I'm saying? He just kind of ignored him sometimes and kind of just went after Khabib.
He completely ignored him, especially in the fourth round.
Yeah.
And to his downfall, in my opinion. 100%. If he would have done what the corner was saying, he wouldn't have gotten taken down like that. But instead, he marched forward and immediately taken down, and then we all saw how that played out.
Exactly.
And he got his ass kicked.
Uh-huh.
I mean, well, at least nobody's talking about that rematch. I want to see Donald Cerrone versus Conor McGregor. I'd love to see it here at home in Las Vegas, number one. Cool. If it can't be here, let's do it in Dublin. That would be dope as fuck. And I hope it's marketed properly, and I hope it breaks the record. And Donald Cerrone, who I think ultimately will lose, I hope that he will get some pay-per-view money. And there's no way on earth that's on ESPN.
I want it to be on ESPN.
It's never gonna happen.
All the TV numbers.
Conor ain't losing that pay-per-view money.
Not if it's
Conor ain't losing that pay-per-view money
in the contract. That
they ain't gonna give him no $50 million flat salary in the contract ever. There's no way. But they're giving that pay-per-view dollars.
I don't know, dude. They're talking about that they've got a lot more money to play with now because the ESPN.
Yeah, they ain't gonna give it to Conor.
Here's the thing, though. Get the fuck out of here! They're not gonna give it to Conor. They've given it to Conor throughout the whole history.
No, you got to understand.
Company.
Well, no, they give him that pay-per-view money, which is they're splitting money with Conor. They're not giving him their money.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
There's a difference.
Here's the thing. You're playing with house money right now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. They still got a $4.2 billion debt on the company.
They don't, though, because they said that the ESPN deal completely covers their debt month to month for the next 5 years. That's what I'm trying to say.
We hear this, but keep in mind this is a private company. Or what are they going to say? No, we're actually kind of screwed, and we really need some major pay-per-views, or we're fucked. No, they're not going to say that.
No, that's not what they've come out and said, though. That's what people who have been around.
Is it? I haven't looked into that.
Have said that that's kind of what is going to happen at this point.
I don't know. While I agree that would be exciting if it was on ESPN, I give that about a chance of 1 in 100. It'd be dope, though.
A lot of these streaming services are changing the game. So what if this is the UFC making a step in the streaming service game where no one thinks that they took a step in at all, but at the same time they're in a way they're leading, just like the UFC has always done. They literally have been at the forefront of everything as far as mixed martial arts. Now that this whole DAZN thing's come around, a lot of people are looking at going into things like that. What if this is their test event to see what they can necessarily do in the streaming game and what kind of advertising and stuff can they make money off of in that in that realm. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
To possibly change.
I think it's more ESPN's platform than UFC's. I mean, they got Fight Pass, but that seems to be falling to the wayside a little bit with this Plus deal.
WWE did it with WWE Network. Now we got DAZN. A lot of different companies are switching to the ONE FC one that's through Bleacher Report. A lot of a lot of different things are going to streaming services because people don't watch things live anymore.
Well, either way, I think that's the fight to make. I think you agree with that too.
Yeah. Definitely. No matter if it's on pay-per-view or not, it is the fight that's going to happen next.
Let's shift out of UFC for a minute because we had another big fight. And let's talk about boxing for a minute. We had Manny Pacquiao, Adrien Broner, in the other big fight of the night last night. And
Adrien Broner looked like shit, man.
Yeah, I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. I want you to think about this hard. If someone were to go to slugfestmagazine.com and look at our article that we write for the boxing magazine where we make weekly picks.
I did really bad last week.
I do believe, yes, that you would see that not only did I pick that fight, but several others. I find that interesting. What are your thoughts?
Terrible this week, dude. I was sick, man.
Yeah, I think we're evened up now. I think our picks are evened up, and folks, be sure to check that out. You know, we do write a boxing column over at the new Slugfest magazine, which is launching later this month.
Shit, that's all I gotta say.
Adrien Broner, and he was trying to cry like he won last night.
He's drunk.
That's worse than T.J. Dillashaw, honestly.
The hood was like,
yeah, the hood was like, no.
So like, who's that guy?
And he did not look good.
He looked terrible.
Pacquiao showed, despite his age of 40, he still is deservedly the quote-unquote regular WBA welterweight champion. That was a good performance. Won every round as near as I can recall. I did see all the fight, but that was the end of the night. The UFC got over so quick, you could actually tune in and watch the boxing right afterwards, which was crazy. Wasn't expecting that. But it was a lot of finishes, yeah. But that was Pacquiao had a good performance.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good boxing coming up.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
So there's a lot of fights we're going to be talking about. Outside of our column over there at Slugfest, we'll be discussing that on the show for sure.
Yeah.
As we've expanded really more from MMA into all the combat sports in general. I think the next bare knuckle boxing events are coming up soon. Yeah. Looking forward to those as well.
Yeah.
It's fucking a lot of good fights on the forefront. We got Bellator with a big thing. Their heavyweight tournament. Plus a lot of young and up-and-coming fighters on there, including Aaron Pico's back. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. And, of course,
notch another one under the belt.
Yeah, I'm quite certain he's going to win once again.
If he wins, that's 5 in a row, right?
It sure is.
Yep.
And especially if he wins again in a dominant performance, that's 5 emphatic wins. Which Bellator doesn't have an official ranking system, but in a lot of the unofficial rankings, Pico's getting up there.
Yep. Well, I mean, he just beat Leandro Hico.
Who's coming off a title shot,
coming off a title shot loss. So, I mean, you got to think he's somewhere up there as well.
And he whooped that ass pretty convincingly.
So.
Now we've got Ryan Bader, the Bellator light heavyweight champion, facing Fedor Emelianenko in the heavyweight tournament to crown the heavyweight champ. Who do you got in that fight, Paul? Fedor or Ryan Bader?
Fedor wins and walks off.
You think he wins and calls it a career?
Yep.
I would like that. I think that would be dope.
I just think that puts Bellator in the worst place because they came in this trying to get a fucking champion. And
I know, they're going to be vacant heavyweight title again. They'll be like, damn it, another tournament. Yeah, they kind of need Bader to win and Fedor to retire.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Fedor.
I don't think he is either.
Oh, sorry. I think Fedor.
It's almost like you had a late night drink and watching fights last night. Sure.
Fedor possibly doesn't retire at the same time, but.
No, he doesn't. He's not really. He hasn't said. He doesn't have to,
but I think that'd be the perfect scenario.
It'd be pretty poetic if he did, don't you think?
The last Emperor's run.
We never do dabs on air during the show. We should do one. You know, I think if Fedor were to win, does beating all of the fighters that he beat in this tournament cement his legacy as the greatest heavyweight of all time? Like, I think that's an interesting question right there and one to consider. Or is it diminished a little bit due to the fact that it's in Bellator and he's going against the light heavyweight champion, not a real true heavyweight for this title?
I don't think it really matters. I mean, because the real heavyweights in this whole company have really been in this whole tournament, and no one's really...
Well, he beat Frank Mir. Yeah, Fedor has an emphatic victory over Frank Mir, who is as legit a heavyweight as it gets. I mean, he might be a little over the hill and past his prime, but so is Fedor, but he's big as hell. Yeah. He's not a blown-up light heavyweight.
Yeah.
And folks, listen, if you didn't catch beforehand, that noise you're listening to is just a torch. We're getting ready to hit some of this fine Girl Scout cookies concentrate here out of this fucking beautiful dab rig in front of us. Another one of the wonderful benefits of living in Las Vegas, land of legal cannabis.
Am I going first?
Oh, you go ahead, dude. So you think, so that's your pick, though? You think it's going to be Fedor?
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to, I don't know, though. Ryan Bader's a lot younger, and he's kind of revamped his entire game.
That he has. He's had a big career surge. He's not the same fighter that lost to John Jones. He's definitely had an improvement. But I don't know if he's had enough of an improvement to stand and bang with Fedor, which is what I think he's going to try and do. He somehow manages to get a lot of the people that fight him to do that, mainly because of his reputation, I would imagine. And I think if Ryan Bader decides to do that, he's going to get KO'd. I think if he implements a real wrestling heavy game, of course he's going to have a chance to win, but that's not necessarily sewn up either. And those are some very nice monster hits and some coughing you hear in the distance there. Now this always does my throat in. That is the downside to some concentrates. Now if you live in a country or a state, depending on where you're listening to us from here, most of you might not have concentrate, so they've real high. This is probably in the mid 70s, 75% THC. So it's pretty much like a form of new school hash. If you know your cannabis and you don't know what shatter and butter and wax are, it's just basically new forms of hash. And the best way to do that's in a glass dab rig, which you got to heat up with a torch. Which is a lot better than back in the day. Used to have to hit like bubble hash off of 2 hot knives over a coil stove. That's not always the best. Now people can make pretty cool utensils that you can legally use. We're just going to wait a second till you got that done. So we've also got in Bellator Michael Venom Page versus Paul Daly coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, that should
in
be
the welterweight tournament. You know that Gegard Mousasi fight is off now.
Yeah, it's off. He got hurt.
So that's a bit of a bummer.
But that means we'll get it in the near future. So
yeah, he's not going anywhere. What's up with Phil Davis? We haven't heard from him in a minute. Oh, that's a nice big monster. Now, hopefully, folks, this doesn't destroy my throat, but what do you think of switching here just real quick? Michael Venom Page, Paul Daly. I'm not sure on the exact date it's coming up. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking it's going to be a fucking stand-up war, dude. Holy shit. Paul Daly, he's had a couple rough fights his last couple goes, but, he's...
Ooh, that's a good hit right there. It's
literally a perfect fight for him. And then Michael Venom Page, who doesn't have the best resume, but has a highlight reel of knockouts. So, this is a perfect fight for both of them. It's a good chance for Paul Daly to get back on track. But then again, it's a perfect chance for Michael Venom Page to put his name on the map as someone who's legitimate and someone who's really gonna contend for this championship. You know what I'm saying? This is gonna be a real competitive tournament, and someone who's like Michael Venom Page is gonna need a full arsenal of techniques to win this thing.
Do you think he can win it? Do you think he stands a chance?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And if he wins, do you think he ever makes his way to the UFC?
No way. I think he's too old. I think he's past his prime as far as going to the UFC. I think if he goes to the UFC, he might run into a wall similar to like Hector Lombard did, where he kind of just was past his prime by the time he got to the UFC. But I think if he stays in Bellator, he can build his legacy outside of the UFC and really make a name for himself still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he could stay there, make good money, hit good ratings. Damn, that's some fucking good-ass fucking wax, dude. I don't know exactly what you call this. It's not shatter. It looks more like a wax. Unless you just melted it. I don't know. It's bomb, though. It's got a nice flavor. It's pretty terpy, too.
I like it.
That's terpenes if you're a rookie on the cannabis.
But let's switch back over to boxing because we got some great boxing fights coming up.
Yeah, talk about what's coming up, man. You were going over some of that earlier. Tell the people what's coming up and what you think about that.
Finally announced this week, we got Canelo versus Danny Jacobs, where we were wondering a couple weeks back who Canelo was going to fight next. Although this could be a good night for Canelo, Danny Jacobs is no slouch. And he could definitely
he just fought Triple G recently, right? In a fairly good fight.
A
year and a half ago, yeah.
Maybe 2 years ago. But gave him a run for his money, though. It wasn't necessarily like... It was one of those situations where you could see that Triple G is a better boxer, but Danny Jacobs just definitely was his night, you know what I'm saying? And I think if Canelo's not careful, he could fall into a similar trap, but Canelo should prevail based on his superior technique, and the size definitely could come into a factor as well.
Looks like Canelo's getting back into action pretty quick with this Dazen deal. They want to turn out some fights fast, it looks like.
Well, I mean, making that much money.
Yeah, $345 million deal. They want some fights right away.
He wants to collect, son.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's May 4th. He fights every year on Cinco de Mayo.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that was to be expected as well.
Yeah. And then also announced this week, or maybe last week, I can't remember. But Terrence Crawford and Amir Khan are fighting on April 20th.
I like that fight too.
ESPN.
On 420 on ESPN.
It's they don't have a venue yet though, so it's possibly going to be here, possibly in New York. They don't know yet. But
that would be cool if it was here. Bob
Arum is he's the whatever the fuck promoter. And he said that he hasn't picked a venue yet, but he said he's shooting for New York. But he said he would like it in Vegas as well.
It'd be cool here in Vegas because, I mean, April 20th is turning into a major holiday here, you know, with legal cannabis, as we're so frequently talking about. April 20th, 420 is a big weed holiday, and there's a lot of shit planned. From what I understand, there's going to be some pretty cool events this year.
Yeah.
And that's something here in Vegas that watch is going to grow. 420 is going to become like fucking New Year's here.
And that's a fucking great fight too.
Yeah, I love it. I love that fight. That's fucking
Crawford,
sick.
Who's got a serious chance to make some noise here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Amir Khan, whose resume speaks for itself. You know what I mean? He was like a prodigy almost, you know, for a second there until the last few years he's had a couple rough goes. You know, that Canelo fight was rough. He's had a couple. If he's able to pull this one off, it'd be a huge win for him.
Definitely get some momentum behind him for real.
Star.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you right now, there's nobody in that division who wants to fight Terrence Crawford right now.
Well, we got the continued resurgence in boxing, which is exciting.
Honestly, I could see possibly a Manny Pacquiao fight. If Manny Pacquiao still wants to go, the logical next fight for him would be the winner of Amir Khan versus Terrence Crawford.
Well, that would be something.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to see that for Manny because I think Amir Khan and Terrence Crawford would knock his ass out.
Yep.
But it's a logical
next title-wise.
Terrence Crawford just tore Jeff Horn's head off fucking a year ago.
Right.
So, I mean, why not fight Manny too? And then he'd get the next belt too.
Absolutely.
He'd get Manny's belt that he won last night.
Well, we got some fucking cool shit coming up in boxing too.
Oh yeah. I think that Canelo Danny Jacobs fight's gonna be good. think Canelo probably prevails. But
yeah, I would agree. Hard to pick against Canelo on Cinco de Mayo.
He's such a tough dude. Man.
Right.
And then I heard from a little birdie on fucking the internet that they're possibly going to line up Canelo versus Triple G for a third time.
I heard that birdie twittering too. That's fucking... I'm down with that fight, actually. Because I did not agree with the outcome of that fight. I'm not butthurt about it because I like both fighters. Yeah. But, I mean, if you went to my personal score, I had Triple G winning that fight. Yeah.
Both times.
You know, and that's just, like, I'm not some big Triple G fan either. I'm just a guy who loves boxing and was keeping score while watching the fight with everybody, you know.
I mean, here's the thing. With both those fights, you cannot really say either of them won or lost.
Yeah, I mean, it was dead fucking close. It wasn't like an ass whipping either way.
I think the second one was more of a draw than the first one.
I can see that argument too.
You know I mean,
so I'm behind the third fight. I'll do it.
But my thing is, I think Canelo wins the third fight because now Triple G has been through 2 wars like that.'s got some years on him. Mm-hmm. If they fight again, it probably won't be for another year from now. So now we're talking what? He's got to be up there in the late 30s. So I just don't know if Triple G's the same fighter in the third one. I think Canelo probably gets the KO in the third fight.
It's a strong possibility. You know, if I were to pick the third fight, I would pick Canelo as well.
Here's the thing is, although that's why Canelo winning the last fight was so big for himself. Because although the first fight was a draw, it didn't really hurt his brand at all. If he were to lose that fight, it still probably wouldn't have hurt his brand at all. But the fact that he won it hurt Triple G so bad because Triple G is so much older than him and Canelo's so much younger. And Canelo has so much of a better resume than Triple G does. That was Triple G's fight to put him on the map, you know, in his legacy and everything, you know. But Canelo already has the legacy. He already has the resume of fighting so many great fighters that Triple G was just another name for him to beat. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I think that shot Canelo into that big contract with DAZN and all these new endorsements he's doing, where Triple G was kind of left behind, and now he's getting older, and his skills will diminish, and he won't be as good in the third fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Well, I think that wraps it up for today.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. However you're listening to us, whether it's on WBUZ 95, which you can find on radio.net, or the Orange Radio app in the App Store and Google Play Store, right? That's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. out here on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. You can also find the podcast itself on all the usual outlets, from our website to iTunes to Google Play. And, of course, we've got video up on YouTube if that's your thing.
Hit the like button, subscribe, comment.
Find everything at SWATmma.com. Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Peace.